kind of built my life around three things. One was friends. It was nice to have friends. The second was school. I always enjoyed school. I knew I wanted to go to college when I was old enough, and the third thing was sports. And when I was growing up, there weren't all that many scholarships, not like there are today. So the only scholarships that I ever heard about were sports scholarships. So I figured I needed to find a sport that I was good enough in that I could get a scholarship to go to college. Now, when I was in high school, I began to focus on running, distance running as my sport. And I did pretty well. I won our district championship as a sophomore and went on, finished sixth in the state championship. Then my junior year, I had my tonsils taken out just before the start of track season. Now, you don't think that you run with your tonsils, but believe me, in a cold weather climate like Wyoming, you really do. And yet, so I wasn't in very good shape for the start of the season, but our first race was against our arch rivals. I come from a city where there's only two public high schools, so we were running against our arch rivals, and specifically, I was running against the guy who had finished second to me the year before in the 2-mile run. Well, the gun went off, and then the two of us slowly began to pull away from the other runners. As I began to pick up the pace to go with my opponent, as he kind of did halfway through the race, I could feel the tension build in my hands and wrists on up into my arms and shoulders. Then it felt like a bear just jumped on my back. And I had to carry him the rest of the way around the track. Well, I finished about 3/4 of a lap behind my opponent. And that night, when I went home, I really began to think about my life, what was important and what wasn't. And because I'd gone to Sunday school since I was little, I decided I'd read my Bible. And I started in the Gospel of Matthew. And I read through the entire Gospel of Matthew that night. I must have got to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning, I don't know. But in there's one verse that really stood out to me. It's where Jesus says, "He who has found his life shall lose it, but he who has lost it for my sake shall find it." And I saw that was me. I was trying to find my life through school and friends and sports, athletics. And yet, none of these satisfied. I mean, you go back and then there's a new quarter, a new semester, you start all over again. And friends are great, but friends aren't always with you. And so there's not that lasting satisfaction I was looking for. So the third thing was sports, and I thought about the races that I won. And when I won a race, I was on top of the world for about a day. And then you're back at it, working harder than ever because everybody's trying to knock off the person on top. So I realized that I wasn't gaining what I was looking for. And so that night I just said a simple prayer. I said something like, "Lord Jesus, I know you've done all these wonderful things for me. You died on the cross for me. You love me. And now I want to lose my life for your sake. I trust that you'll be able to give me that completeness that I'm looking for." And thank you for coming into my life and making that change. And nothing earth-shattering happened. I didn't suddenly see angels or anything. I just rolled over and went to bed. But the next day, I could tell there was a change, the very next day. It was like, always before, I'd had to carry around a set of weights, you know, and these weights were the expectations that others had of me, that I thought God had of me, that I had of myself. And now I could just throw those down because I knew God loved me and accepted me just the way I was. And so that gave me the freedom to be more open and accepting of others. And that was the very first change I saw Christ make in my life. And since then, he's made many others, and I trust he'll continue to make changes. But that's how I came to know Christ.